is one. So there was a girl in Texas who was looking for um, donations because she wanted to do like a writing school.
Yeah.
And one of her friends who was teaching, like he shared the post because she was raising funds, and I saw that, and I was like, I really like that.
Yeah.
So I ended up buying it from her, and then she shipped it out to me, and
That's dope.
yeah, it took care of
It's on a little canvas
her
thing.
whole whatever the
Yeah.
cost was, it paid for it. So, but yeah, it was on a really large like it was a massive canvas,
Yeah.
and I was like, man, I need a backdrop or I need something,
Yeah.
and I was like, do I cut this? Do I cut it out?
Yeah.
And so I did.
I think it was a
it
good
was
call, man.
it was a
It
no-brainer.
flows really well. It almost looked like you painted it on the wall. So I mean, it works really well.
Yeah, yeah, I like it, and it's to me it's unique.
It is. It's great
But I
artwork
mean,
too.
it's kind of like the whole theme of the show. Bears don't fly. So like
Yeah.
having bears, and then
Yeah.
Ron Lawson did
Yeah.
that for me a few years
No
ago as a
kidding. I
gift.
didn't know
Yeah.
he was an artist.
He does some incredible things. Like he can really draw some unique stuff, and he has a sketchbook. So you'll have to ask him, be like, hey, bring your sketchbook and let me check it
He's
out.
like, hey,
But
he's like, I'll fix
he
your
does.
toilet and I'll give you
Yep.
awesome artwork.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. He's a really cool guy.
he's pretty much the Dos Equis guy.
Yeah. A little bit of
He's the most
everything.
interesting man at Northgate.
That's awesome. Well, go ahead and introduce yourself. Give a quick introductory. That way people know who you are before we kind of just dive
Okay.
in.
Yeah. So, Kyle Brammer. I am a entrepreneur, a business owner. I own a sports nutrition company called After Dark Supplements. It's been around for just shy of 3 years now. And then this past January now, I just launched my own consulting and business coaching business called Elevated Solutions. Oh, I should say Elevated Business Solutions. And within that kind of confines, work with a lot of growing businesses, small businesses, kind of all of it. Don't do a lot of corporate. That was the nice part about being
Mm-hmm.
an owner is I get to pick who I work with. But I joke with people. I tell them I do holy ghost writing in a sense because people will bring me in behind the scenes and I'll build out their processes. I'll fix their cost of goods, anything like that. Put them in contact with the right, 3PL shippers,
Mm.
anything they kind of need to shore up. Like, a lot of them when they get to a point where they can't scale anymore without getting certain things in place. But for the most part, people don't know I'm there because I'll run it through the leadership.
Mm.
So I was like, yeah, it's kind of like ghostwriting for them, but I like to add kingdom principles in there while we're doing it. So
Yeah,
that's just my little nod.
that's cool. I'm curious. I don't think I ever asked you, how did you get into the supplement game? Because I feel like that's such a popular, like there's this whole trend in fitness
Yeah.
that's been picking up for the past couple of years, and it's become wildly more popular. And I think social media has a lot of play in that. But like weightlifting now is kind of for everybody. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter like how you live, or it just blew up, and where everybody came to this same arena, be like, hey, let's just get fit and let's get healthy
Yeah.
and such. So how did you? What was the brainstorming like to get into the supplement field?
Yeah. So I got started. I played sports my entire life,
Mm,
all through high school. Dabbled in a little bit of collegiate athletics, and then just kind of the body was beat up. I was primarily baseball and wrestling.
okay.
I was a very good wrestler. And then, I was off at a university and it was just kind of like, man, I don't like it here. So moved back closer to home to go to a local university there and do some community college and work. So like juggling all these things. And I remember a girl that I graduated high school with was a manager at like a local GNC that was like tucked back by like a Jimmy John's and a
Mm,
Kroger. And she was like, hey, I need weekend help because no one wants to work on the weekend. I was like, oh, I will. Like I just started kind of getting into lifting weights again.
mm,
Um, and I was like, oh, okay. I knew nothing about supplements,
okay.
just absolutely nothing. And so part of it was like, hey, it was me and funny enough, another kid named Kyle that she was looking to hire. She was like, whoever impresses me more. So I was like, hey, do you have like a notebook or anything I can learn about the supplements on that I'm selling and the
Hmm.
ingredients? And she goes, yeah, here's a whole binder.
Yeah.
And man, I read that from front to back and really tried to hone my skills for selling. And in doing that, I happened just to learn a lot about it.
Okay.
Uh, so a good buddy of mine that I grew up with got picked up out of Vitamin Shop, and he's he got employed with this massive sports nutrition company at the time. You heard of Hydroxycut, the fat burner?
Yep.
It was Muscle Tech. So
Oh,
Muscle
okay.
Tech's owned by Iovate Health Sciences. They're based
Okay.
out of Ontario. And so he was like, hey, man, help me out. Sell a lot of our stuff at the store. I was like, yeah, I can do that. And so I was transferring in from other stores, doing whatever I could to support them. Fast forward almost like a year into GNC, and he was like, hey, we have an opening down in Columbus, Ohio. And he was like, we were going to interview your manager. And I said, what can I interview? Like, all those numbers are from me. And he's like, yeah, we'll see. And so I interviewed, and thought I did really well. It was my first ever like Skype interview too.
Okay.
So
Oh man, I remember.
dude,
Skype.
I and my boss was late, so I had to sprint home from work, throw on a dress shirt. I was in my boxers, so I
That's
was doing
funny.
the COVID thing
Yeah.
well before it was
Well,
really
before
a
it
thing.
even became a thing.
And
Yeah.
man, I like if you could have a camera on my back, it was drenched. Drenched. I'm like overheated. I'm nervous. All this. I'm like stumbling over my words. And finally, I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm like failing. He's like, you're good. Like,
Yeah.
his name was Terry. Till this day, he made such a lasting impact on me as a leader, as a boss, as a human being.
Okay.
And then I didn't hear anything. And I was like, oh, well, that kind of stinks. And so I asked my buddies, like, I don't know. And I get a call from Terry again, like a month later. And he was like, so are you excited? I was like, for what? And he goes, did they not call you? I said, no. He goes, oh, you got the job. It's been yours for like 2 weeks. And I was like, oh, and he goes, oh, by the way, you have, under a month to move down.
Yeah.
And so my dad at the time worked at GM. So he was actually down in New Orleans for the Super Bowl.
Okay.
He was helping doing like a halftime show that GM was a part of. And I was like, Dad, I don't know what to do and all this. And he's like, just start packing. And he still tells me it was such a surreal thing because he's like, I come home and he goes, walk up to your room. It's just boxes.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, man. Like, and
That's
so,
wild.
yeah, it kind of got my start there. And it just kind of took off after that. I ended up making a move over into distribution.
Okay.
So I worked for a very large sports nutrition distributor. And they dabble in, they've expanded a lot more now, but I mean, they sell to, at least this specific one I worked for, sold to military bases.
Okay.
Both foreign and domestic. They were kind of the gatekeepers for that. And then but we dealt with mom and pop shops, large gym chains, Dick's Sporting Goods, like some of these big ones.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of grocery chains. So it's expanded so much, and so from there was kind of burned out, got furloughed during COVID, and didn't want to come back to the industry.
Yeah.
I was a little jaded, just beat up, tired, a lot of vanity.
Yeah.
And my buddy calls me. I think I spent a whole year. I could have had a job within like a month. And I was like, no, I'll just take those stimulus checks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Until I find something.
Yeah.
Little did I know, like, 200 plus interviews later, I get a buddy calling me and he's like, hey, I'm just over at this acquisition company. I said, oh, okay. For what? He goes, sports nutrition. I was like, nope, not doing it. And he's like, hear me out. And he's like, here's who's all over. And these were all my buddies that I came up with through the industry. So I was like, well, what does it pay? And then he told me what it paid. And I was like, definitely not. And he was like, and I was like, fine. So we sold our home in PA. I moved back to Ohio because it was a remote job and worked there for a couple of years. And things didn't turn out the way we were hoping. There's just mismanagement of funds and leadership issues. And from that, though, during that time, I reconnected with my now business partner again. And he was like, hey, why don't you start your own brand? And I was like, yeah, let me just pull 50 grand out of the air and make this happen.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, I'll help you. He goes, I can fund all that. He's like, I just need you to build it out. And I said, well, I can do that side.
Yeah.
And we were thinking like, hey, man, if this makes like 200,000 in a year, like that's pretty cool. We could do that. We did $500,000 in the first 4 months.
That's so cool.
And it's just kind of been a whirlwind since then. So,
that's so cool. That's
yeah.
exciting. What did it look like for like the marketing and distribution side? Because it's your brand is After Dark Supplements.
Yeah.
Right. And so to launch that, I mean, obviously you had connections already.
Yeah.
Like, and the team had connections. So it was kind of like a no-brainer on that end. Once you build out everything you need and logos and powders and all that stuff, did you just call people and be like, hey, here's our product, start selling it? Like,
I mean, cut and dry, it kind of is like that.
Okay.
So, I had a lot of connections. And then I had a part-time sales rep that was with me at the prior company.
Okay.
And so he had been around just as long as I had. Between us, we had a good book of business. And then I was like, hey, I really want to crawl before we walk because I don't want
Mm,
to get spread thin. I
right.
primarily do direct to retailers because we weren't doing a website at the time. That was our whole gimmick was,
Okay.
hey, we're going to support the stores. We're not going to have our own website and undercut you and do all these things.
Right.
We're supporting brick and mortar.
Okay.
And that was something that was really needed at that time because stores responded really well. But it was we had our direct customers, our little book of business, and then we had a small little sub distributor down in Texas,
Okay.
and they're like, oh yeah, we'll take like a couple grand worth, and you're like, oh yay, like
Right.
happy days. And we get like a call back like 3 days later. They're like, we need 10 grand like right now. Like
That's
people are,
wild.
yeah. And so then I was fine with slow rolling, and then my partner's like, hey, so and so is blowing up my phone, which is a bigger distributor.
Okay.
And I was like, like I don't know. And they're like, listen, let us do it in 2 hubs. We'll do this. And I mean, I think in their first full year with us, they did like 650,000 just in
Wow.
distribution.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so
So it all worked out.
it did.
Just like it sounds like, I mean, obviously when you're building a business or brand, especially in like the supplement and fitness world, it could be a complete and total failure.
Oh, it happens a
Now, I
lot.
feel like now if you were to do that now, there'd be no way, just because there's so much that you can pick and choose from like influencers and what they sell. And I feel like you probably got ahead of the game just in time
Yeah.
to launch.
Well, and that was the thing was what we were doing too is all guerrilla marketing. We didn't really have the funds to go then dump into marketing yet.
Okay.
So what I had noticed was, oh wow, a lot of people are tagging our brand on
Hmm.
Instagram. I would reshare it. And
Yeah.
suddenly I'd get a DM that's like, "Oh, thank you so much."
Yeah.
I'm like, all I do is reshare it, and
Yeah.
like, and then I started to realize like brands don't really like they engage with their consumers, but they don't.
Yeah.
They do it on such a macro level, and we're so small. I'm able to do it on such a genuine micro level with them, where they're physically talking with the owner of the brand,
Yeah.
and to them it means the world. To me, I'm like, dude, I'm just Kyle.
It's like it's
Like,
a
yeah,
no-brainer.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
supporting me,
yeah,
I'll share, your product.
and
And I feel like that's a so like I know in like the wedding industry, like when I'll tag like some of these people, get like these gorgeous gowns and suits and from, top of the line notch world designers. It's like every now and then I'll tag them, and then they'll see the DM and they'll be like, "Oh, thanks so much." It's like that's cool. They
yeah,
get 2 million followers, and they're
that's huge.
they're like, seeing that I tagged them if the bride wore something they designed or whatever.
Yeah,
So it's such a small gesture to show appreciation,
yeah,
right? Because I mean everybody does something in effort to make themselves grow or expand. And so when you are engaging with people who have such a high traction rate, or and I mean following is followers or whatever, but
yeah.
just to get that scene moment from a recognizable brand can turn a customer into a client for life. Like,
Yeah, it makes them feel like they're a part of something.
yeah.
And that's, I think, at the end of the day, and I just talked about this on another podcast, like within the industry. It was like people just want to feel like they're a part of something.
Hmm.
We're wired that way. Whether you want to be a part of a family, a part of a relationship, and part of a company,
Yeah.
part of a brand.
Yep.
There's just this impulse and this just desire to want to
Hmm.
be included. And so when we launched the brand, we never told people who our end demographic was. Like it was like, hey, we make kind of high stem products, and I tell people, I'm like, I can't even take some of them. That's you guys are nuts, but
Yeah.
that's what the market demands. Like I'm not gonna ingest 400 milligrams of caffeine. Like I like my coffee,
Yeah.
and my nootropics and my stem free stuff. So,
Yeah.
but we never told anyone like, hey, but big bodybuilders now our products, and I think you touched on it a little bit too, like the industry is no longer just about bodybuilding. It's about
Hmm.
health and wellness,
Yep.
fitness. You're seeing just this broad spectrum of
Yep.
people now going to the gym, trying to better their life, good, bad, or indifferent,
Yeah.
and you can weigh in on the pros and cons of social media and what that's kind of brought about,
Right.
but it has brought awareness to the industry. And we're seeing it now with Gen Z, who's grown up on Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah.
Now are also coming to the Arnold for these events because their favorite influencers there,
Right.
or their favorite, Instagram brands there. And the foot traffic's been the highest it's been in years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
absurd.
it's all demographic.
Oh
There's no
yeah,
like specific
everybody.
niche,
Yeah,
Yeah, everybody's becoming a part of it. And I think that's one cool thing. It made me think the other day, how it's crazy to think that we're trying to be taught to have an enemy or hate half the population because you have to pick a side,
yeah,
And with weightlifting or fitness, I feel like that's probably one of the only few things in this life where everybody collectively is all in agreement on the same page. Like, let's get healthy. Let's start working out.
yeah,
Like, let's start being physical. And yeah, the 3 years when the economy was down, it's like I think people realized more just how detrimental your health is and what even if it's small steps like I've been on carnivore for 2 months and down 30 pounds.
dude.
So it's
Congrats, man.
like it's wild.
It's
It's wild.
um,
I'm no longer like holding my breath to tie my shoe. So if ever laughing about it, he's like, I get it, man, because
I've
he
been
lost
there.
weight
I've
too.
been there.
But it's crazy because it really is more so like a mental shift that you have to get into to be like, I'm doing this not for anybody else except for me.
Yeah,
For like, and I'm just gonna enjoy the ride. And honestly, fish, chicken, steaks every day, egg. Man, I eat so many eggs, but
yeah,
it's not hard when like you're mentally prepared for it. So I feel like the
yeah.
mental game is the first step and then everything else just comes
So
easy.
is there no veggies at all? Are there?
No,
Or is it
no,
like
yep. So there's different kinds of carnivore I'm learning. So there's different levels. There's like the extremist where they only do meat and eggs. They don't do any salt, pepper, nothing, like straight carnivore. Now, I'll do like 90% carnivore because I need to have flavor. Like, I love a good flavor,
hmm
and making my own herbs and spices for food is like kind of my thing. And so you can have salt and pepper, uh, garlic, like granulated garlic powder, I think, or just garlic
Yeah,
powder. And you can do like small amounts of cheese,
yeah,
but nothing like too crazy.
yeah.
And most articles will be like, you might as well just cut out cheese, because it's just like
It's such a
it,
minuscule
yeah,
amount.
and
Yeah,
it doesn't even make sense. And so, yeah, I'll do like herb spices, but I'm like 90% carnivore, and I don't want to begin to hate being a carnivore.
yeah.
So I
It's
blend in
balanced.
a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So Julie, my wife, she's a nutritional therapy practitioner, and so that's more of a holistic approach, and
Hmm.
it's not crunchy like people think, and now like oh. Put crystals on you and heal you. No,
Yeah.
like she can examine through blood panels, stool
Hmm.
samples, like all that kind of like the root cause of the issue. She actually treats the root
Yep.
cause, not the symptoms.
Yeah.
And both of us were big competitors. Hers came later in life. She was a very accomplished CrossFitter,
Mm.
trained all the time, like nuts. I mean, she enjoys pain.
Yeah.
And then she still asks me why we don't work out together. I'm like, I think you know the answer to that. But my those days are done for me. Uh, but she's really helped me shift my approach with a lot of that to it's a good, better, best mentality. Like,
Yeah.
I travel a lot for work, or it's gotten better about having to travel because now I can pick when I go. I'm
Mm.
not having to go on behalf of an employer.
Yeah.
But she was like, hey, like if you're in a pinch, like I remember I was doing a protocol with her to help heal my stomach. I had some gut issues,
Okay.
and I got stuck at an airport on in a wing of the airport where they didn't really have a lot of options, and they had like the vending machine that has like healthy salads and sandwiches. I couldn't have half of that stuff.
Okay.
Like, and I'm like freaking out. I'm like, dude, I'm only a month in. I'm gonna
Yeah.
ruin my protocol. Like, I'm really just getting upset about it because I was just starting to feel good. And she's like, pump the brakes. This is not what it's about.
Hmm.
What are your options? Someone's this. Okay. What's the good option? I said, well, they got pizza. She goes, it's a better option. I said, well, they got this
Oh
over
man, I
here.
haven't had
And she
pizza
goes,
in so long.
what's your best option out of this? And I said, I think it's this. She goes, if you were to consume that, do you feel that you made a good choice that day for that situation? I said, yes. And she
Yeah.
goes, oh, and it did. One meal's not going to make or break.
Right.
And that's what I would probably encourage you to is table salt and peppers is not going to change.
Yeah, it's not going to be detrimental.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
even with having cheat days, it's like yesterday hung out with my nephews and my sister and they brought like a new Dorito. I was like, I'll have a few Doritos, sure. And it's
Dude,
not like I'm not here to hate myself or hate,
it's moderation, man.
Yeah.
Like I feel like when these people deprive themselves so long of something,
Hmm.
um, a few things happen. They either put it on a pedestal where now it becomes this
Right.
idol,
Right.
and you're almost worshiping it in a sense because you're giving it control of your life of like,
Yeah.
oh, you're telling yourself that you don't have the self-control if that's around.
Right.
And I'm the kind of person that, I through the years of weight cutting for wrestling,
Mm,
I've always had kind of a rough relationship with weight and body image and all
yeah.
that. And I know you don't hear about it a lot with guys, but it does happen.
Oh yeah.
Like when I met Julie, I used to always step on a scale before I went to the bathroom and step on off,
Mm.
even if I was just going pee. And I remember one time she was like in there and I just did my thing. And she goes, "Do you realize you weigh yourself before and after every time you?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I do." So I've always just so used to it from wrestling. She was like, "You need to go and like put that scale away. Like that's not healthy,
Yeah.
And it's something that still now I have a scale in my house. It's probably covered in dust.
Yeah.
I won't bring it out because a number on a scale doesn't define like how I feel.
Right.
I might find that I want to be 170 pounds, but I feel great at 185. I'm
Yeah.
still strong. I'm still functional fitness, all
Right.
that. So I've went through all the fads. I've done all of them. The only one I'll really say that I enjoyed, that I felt like really sharp on, fasting.
Okay.
That was, but I was also doing a super high fat kind of keto-esque diet
Okay.
with it, because they complement each other. And I've learned that my body just responds well to fats more than
Mm.
carbs.
Yeah.
I love carbs,
Well,
but
so eating more fatty, so that's something even on the carnivore, eating something you want to eat fatty steaks.
you
Like
do.
you
It's
want to
good for the
consume,
brain.
yeah,
Yeah, the
and
omegas.
it digests differently. Something about the digestion process between like turning that into sugar
Yeah.
and transferring the glucose and all those things. So, but they tell you like you want the fatty steaks.
Hmm.
'Cause a lot of people don't like the fat. So
I
anytime
like it.
I know I
I think it's
love
a,
it now.
I think it's a texture thing.
Yeah, it could be, but like I'll go to Kroger and I'll go to their fresh meat section and I'm just picking like move that steak, give me all that fat that's on that one,
Yeah.
and I'll bring it home, cook it, and oh my
Oh,
god,
it's so good.
so good.
It's so good.
It's amazing.
Well, and that holds all the salt a lot of times if you're seasoning too.
Yeah.
Like that's the good piece.
Yeah, it's the oh, this is good. I'm gonna sit down and enjoy this for a minute. Yeah. I had so I don't know if you know, I was huge into weightlifting like
I
a
didn't know that.
decade ago.
Okay.
I have records.
No kidding.
Yeah, I started out in mixed martial arts. I did mixed martial arts
Same here.
for like 9 years,
Okay.
I think. So became pretty efficient in that. Well, and then we started incorporating weightlifting into our fighting workouts and kind
Yeah.
of like,
Yeah.
conditioning, and over it was like probably a 3 month shift where I had dropped like 50% of mixed martial arts and started going to the gym
It,
more and lifting weights.
it's addicting, man.
And eventually I made the full switch, and I made the official full switch when I moved down here
Yeah.
in Columbus or Delaware now. But like back home in Youngstown, it's like there's competition. Like when you go to the gym, you see guys, you're
Yeah.
like, I want to be the strongest. I want to be. And so that was my motivation to be the strongest. Didn't care what I looked like, just wanted to lift the weight.
Yeah.
When I got to Columbus,
Oh yeah.
night and day difference with competition. I was like, holy
Small
crap.
pond, big pond.
So in a year, put on at least 45, 50 pounds of muscle.
Yeah.
Just 3 days, three trains a day, 7 days a week. I went like 2.5, 3 years, 7 days a week. Like it was a religion to
Yeah.
me. And I would go on holidays because at the time it was Metro Fitness that
Oh
was
yeah.
open. And I think they have just one now in Worthington.
They did. I used to go to one off of Bethel.
Yep, yeah, that's the one. They had one in Delaware, just 5 minutes from here, and yeah, they were open 24/7, open on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Thanksgiving Day,
Yeah.
and it's like I'm going. And my peak was 260, 265 with about 6% body fat.
Yeah.
I have a picture. I'll show you a picture when we're done. I was a tank.
You get burned out though, man.
Well, so I got stupid, and I tell people this, knowing what I know now, you never want to train with a belt. A weightlifting belt is the worst thing you can use, because what it does is you wrap it around your waist and it puts all that force on the one center point, which is your spine.
Yep.
It condenses all that pressure and it forces it in the back of your body. And so one day it was back day and I went to the gym, forgot my belt, and I'm like, oh, I'll be fine. It'll be good. Got up repping like 315, got up to like 485, 500, and I was going to do like one rep of it.
Yeah.
Pulled it up, and I felt
Oh.
and I was like, you instantly feel that numbness, right? When you
Yeah.
pull something or tear something, I'm like, oh, it's fine. It'll be good. Waited a couple minutes, and I went to do it again. And that's when I felt the like that, and I ripped my sciatic. And I was
Oh.
done. Like
Yeah.
that was it. That I was like,
It's
well,
enough to
this
do it.
sucks, you
Yeah.
know? And so I waited a year, and I would still go to the gym, but I seriously, like, because I never went to the hospital, didn't do anything medical with it. I was like, I'm just gonna heal naturally, like,
Yeah.
no health insurance. And I was like, man, this is my whole life. I mean, it was my whole life. And
Yeah.
people who knew me back then, they know it was my life.
Yeah.
And yeah, went back a year later, went to the Y here. I was like, oh, let's start out with chest day. It's been a long time. Let's do
Yeah.
chest. And 135, dude.
Yeah.
135 pounds. I go down, I push up, and my neck freaking tore. So then that put me out for another 6 to 7 months. And I'm like, I'm done. Like, this is it. I can't do this
You're like, I don't like
anymore.
this anymore.
Yeah. It's like, man, this sucks. But I had such to say all that. I had such a unhealthy mentality with the way I looked. So, like, I grew up having self-image issues for the longest time.
Yeah.
And even then, even when I was the biggest, I was the strongest, bulging 8-pack, shoulders like mountain.
Yeah.
And you're still dealing with an unhealthy image of yourself because it's never good enough. So going through all that and just life things, I'm like, man, those were the glory days, but I am so much better now than when I was then.
Yeah.
And I think that just comes with experience in life.
Maturity, everything like
Yeah.
that. Like I tell people all the time, like, I'm so burned out with like fitness and industry and like being a new dad. Like, I want to be healthy for my daughter and
Yeah.
for my future kids and
Right.
my wife and for myself. It's really hard when there's not an end goal,
Yeah.
because I'm always like, oh, like, big into martial arts too. I was a top ranked featherweight for MMA for like 3 years in Michigan.
Nice.
And broke my foot my final fight. And I promised my dad, I go, if I ever get injured, I'll quit.
Yeah.
I won't do it. And I just finished my degree, and I'm pretty sure my former trainers are still mad at me because it was like, hey, win this fight, go pro.
Yeah.
I was invited to go out to Dubai to do their version of the Ultimate Fighter.
That's so cool.
I'm like, it was like all these opportunities, and I just realized, like, looking back now, I was like, I was so angry.
Yeah.
I was in such a place of hurt. Like, I didn't know the Lord.
Yeah.
I had a lot of childhood trauma, a lot of other stuff. Now, I'll preface this: my parents were great. Like, I was never abused,
Right.
but my mom dealt with being an alcoholic,
Okay.
and just other things. And so I was just angry.
Yeah.
I never, until I met my wife, I never really had a good relationship with women either.
Okay.
It was always like, I always felt like I attracted damaged goods.
Yeah.
Or ones that had like daddy issues. And
Yeah.
it's not a knock on them.
Yeah.
But I look back at the trend now, and it was either dad divorced the mom and wasn't around,
Right.
or dad didn't treat her well, or dad was dead.
They're just a poor scene of example.
Yeah, it was. And then I'd get my heart broken and then be like, so angry and these toxic relationships.
Yeah.
And so after I met Julia, I was like, you know what? I want to try MMA again. Like, I didn't like the way my career ended.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my career ended when I was like 20.
Yeah, that was about my. I think I was like 20.
I was
3
26 when I decided to do this. So I'm like a $183. I was big into bodybuilding and everything.
Okay.
So wasn't like super lean. I'd say about like 11-12% body fat.
Okay.
But, not the cardio you need. And
Yeah.
I remember getting back into it, and they're just like, no one would believe me that I used to fight. Like, I'm a good collegiate level wrestler. They knew that.
Yeah.
But, striking's a little slow. It's not like riding a bike where it immediately comes back. Like,
Right.
that is a sharpened muscle memory kind of thing. So I took my lickings for a while, but what I didn't tell anyone was I was showing up 2 or 3 times a week in the morning at like 6 a.m. doing cardio workouts. I was the only one showing up.
Mm-hmm.
Now and then I'd have like another victim with me, and then we just get mauled by the trainer. And I went and I did my fight, and I beat the guy in like 50 seconds. And I was like, I went through 4 months of hell.
Yeah.
for 50
50
seconds of
seconds.
glory
Yep.
with a dude that they had to bail out of jail because he had like a bench warrant. It
Oh
was like
my
this whole
gosh.
fiasco. And I talked to my wife after. I was like, that was not fulfilling at all. But I'm
Yeah.
like,
You have to be passionate.
you do
You
it
have to
just
be passionate
I was
about
very
it.
disciplined. But then so I got my weight down. So I was 183 when I started that. I got on a like with a meal prep service that my buddy ran,
Mhm.
and I mean I won't drink in training camp. I won't no,
Right.
there was nothing.
Yeah.
And I got all the way down to like 155
Wow.
over that 3 month span.
Okay.
And then I like the way I look. I feel good. I'm lighter, all this, and then like that thought creeps back in. Well, you're not strong anymore. And it was
Mm.
like, oh, man. It was the same thing that plagued me when I first joined the industry. I was 165 pounds
Mhm.
and I looked like I was like a buck 80. I was
Yeah.
lean. I was in really good shape,
Right.
but everyone was so big around me. And I always felt like I had to. So I started lifting more.
Yeah.
And then someone's like, oh, you should take test.
Yeah.
So then I started injecting tests,
Okay.
and doing that. And like, it's like, oh yeah, you feel great on it, but then you come off of it. And like, it was just like, and then,
That's one thing I've heard about testosterone is if you start it, you better fully commit to it because it's coming off of it that does
well,
does
people,
real
when you
damage.
get on TRT, you are stuck on TRT. Then people don't realize that
Yeah.
because your body's already not producing it. So now you're introducing a foreign esque compound
Yeah.
to make up for that. So if your test levels are up because of that, your body's like, oh, great, I don't have to produce anymore. Then.
Right.
So if you take that away,
Yep.
everything resettles again. It's not like, oh, I fixed the engine. It's like,
Yeah.
well, no, man.
I have a friend who I think that's what he takes, and he's massive, and he's older and
Mhm.
a phenomenal couple, him and his wife. But I'm eventually going to reach out to be like, hey, you want to come on the show? Let's talk about this because I'm
Yeah.
curious too. I mean, and I don't think I would ever take it just because I know I have an addictive personality.
Yeah.
So like if I start receiving the benefits of something that I know is going to greatly
Don't
impact
go within
my
a country
strength,
mile of it, man.
yeah, and
Not
I'd
even
be
that.
like,
You
that's
feel
it.
good. You just feel good on it. It's a
Yeah.
mood enhancer.
Yeah.
I did it a few times. I was always um, very cognizant of doing it. Never abused it.
Mhm.
Tried a couple oral steroids. Never really. I don't know why.
Okay.
Tried the SARMs, the pro hormones, all those things because that was just kind of what you did,
Yeah.
and saw great results. But
Yeah.
and now I look and I'm like, dude, the damage I probably have
Yeah.
done. And I was good about they call it like your on cycle stuff. So it's, you'll take some capsules that really help protect your liver and your
Right.
organs and all that. And I did a good PCT, post cycle therapy, and
Yeah.
all that. And it was like, it doesn't matter though, man.
You're still
pumping that
Yep.
through your system. And I tell people now, so what's one thing you would go back and do differently? I said, I would never touch this stuff.
Yeah.
I think it jacked up my metabolism.
Okay.
I think that, long term there are benefits to it. And it's not faulting anyone that's on TRT, especially if you're older.
Right.
Like I joke with Julie, but there's part
No,
of me
I
that's
had
like,
another friend I went to North Carolina with, and we were just talking, shooting the bucket, and I was asking him some personal questions. He's like, "Yeah, I started taking this a year ago. Dramatically
Yeah,
changed our life for the better." And so, like,
Yeah.
there's
huge-
healthy moderation.
But if you're getting your blood panels done, you're going to see, a specialist about it. You're doing all these things.
Right.
But, Julie would be an interesting one to have on here because she'll argue with you on it too, is that, well, your test levels are low because why?
Yeah.
Like, what's the root cause?
Yeah.
You're just talking about the symptoms. And like, I got a buddy, I love him dearly. I call him a dumpster panda because he eats everything, Taco Bell, all this,
Okay.
but he's constantly on TRT.
Mm.
And I'm like, dude, like, clean your diet up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And I'm like, you're stuck on this for life now. You know that, right? Because
Yeah.
your eating habit, like, it is going to be a train wreck. Yeah, well, I'll die young then. And I'm like, but you got 2 kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So caffeine, I don't know. So I don't know enough about your after dark supplements and what you guys sell and what everything's included. But back when I was into weightlifting, there was a company, I forget what company it came from, but they created a pre-workout. So I was huge into pre-workout supplements. And there was a product called, some people call it Jacked. Some people called it Jack 3D.
So it's Jack 3D.
Is it Jack
Yes.
3D? Okay. So the original Jack 3D was my
DMAA.
sugar mama. Oh my gosh. I would take, so
Yeah.
I built up a tolerance with that.
Yeah.
And so at some point, I was taking 2, 3 scoops in the morning to get my
Yeah.
energy, taking 5, 6 scoops a night before workout. So that's like 1,000,
Oh,
1,200 milligrams of caffeine before
so
workout.
before it's
And
so much
then,
more than just that.
and then, and then I would chug a red line. You remember red lines?
The OG Red Line.
Oh yeah, I would chug a bottle
How
on
did you
top
not
of
have
Jack
a
3D.
stroke?
Dude, I built up a tolerance, but I'll tell you what, I had some of the most insane pump
So
workouts
so it's
ever.
funny that you mentioned those because
It was
that
bad.
Jack 3D had DMAA in it. It's
They did a
1,3.
recall. They did a whole
Well,
they
oh
had to
yeah.
redo it
So it
all.
wasn't even the Jack that was really getting it. So there's a lot of like murky waters around it, and really what it was that really kind of did them in was guys overseas. They would get care packages that had it in it that in the military.
Ah,
Well, they're taking all this stuff,
yeah,
not drinking water, and you're out in 100-degree deserts.
yeah.
And they were having heat stroke and having issues with it.
Okay.
But I will say then when they got slapped on the wrist about it, they didn't clean up their products because they also had Oxy Elite, their fat burner. I used to have cops come in and buy it all the time because it would keep them up at night if they had to work graveyard shift.
Oh,
And a lot of them was like, oh yeah, I keep 4 bottles in my freezer to preserve
wow.
them. And then like and when they recalled everything, we transferred a lot of it to our store because it was like $1 spiff
Okay.
on it. I mean, people were going nuts for it, but I mean, the DMAA was a synthetic compound that was created. So geranium stem, when I worked at Muscle Tech, we owned the patent on it.
Okay.
It was a natural plant that gave you the same kind of focus and energy benefits of the DMAA. We wouldn't give the patent out to anybody. So they went and created, well,
Synthetic
1,3,
version.
yeah. So it had the exoskeleton it had a methamphetamine exoskeleton to it. So you could actually pop dirty on it, even though you weren't taking methamphetamines.
That is wild.
And so it was this whole thing for a long time. And actually, when we launched After Dark, after a while, we started with 1,3-DMHA. So what happens a lot in our industry is you'll make an awesome compound, it works really well, and then FDA goes, no, ban.
Yeah.
So someone just
most of all GNC products say this is not FDA approved.
Well,
anyway.
So what the science community will do is go, oh, you banned that one molecule over.
Yeah.
DMHA, DMKA now, or
okay.
And they're all, and it takes so long to ban it that you're going to make millions before you do anything like that. So, the fact that you were ingesting that, I took a scoop of that one time. I played a whole season of like NCAA football on PlayStation. I was wired all night. I was like, never again. And the red line, those were even worse because those were,
I know.
Oh man.
And those were the little bottle drinks that were always on sale at the gym.
So it's so hard.
Buy 2 for $7. I'm like, heck yeah, sign me up.
Oh, dude,
I was hooked on it. And what's crazy is, I would do my workouts, live life, whatever. After every meal I would eat, I would immediately crash. Did not matter what it was. I would just sit on the couch and I'd be out. Like, so it was
your body was just fighting to survive
every day, every day, on top of drinking coffee. And now I also had I did landscaping at the time, so it was a very physically demanding job that I would do all day.
I used to do it too. I love it. It's very gratifying.
Yeah, and so I would do that all day, 8-10 hours a day, and then I'd come home, get ready, head straight to the gym, consume all the supplements. And yeah, dude, it was bad.
Before I joined Muscle Tech, my buddy who worked for them he would get discounted ones that like they were not making anymore. So I'd buy them off of them. So I was trying to get bigger, math gainers, all the pills.
Yep.
And I wasn't really good at swallowing pills still at that time. And not to mention these things were like horse pills. And I had this whole like regimen, like all that stuff for it. And I was like desperate to figure out how to consume it because I'd gag. I'd get, and one time I was like, well, I'm going to crush them all up in a blender and then put them in my drink.
Oh, gosh.
Threw up. Gosh. It was the worst tasting thing ever. Like,
have you heard of that makes me think of have you heard of the Poundstone shake?
No.
So Derek Poundstone, he was a world weightlifting strongman. And he was getting interviewed, and the interviewer was like, so what do you get to consume your protein and diet? And he's like, I do the pound stone shake. He's like, I'll cook. He did like he probably did like 4 or 5 chicken breasts. He would
Yep.
cook chicken breasts, put them in a blender, blend them,
Oh,
add water in the blender, blend it all up, and he would just chug it.
yeah.
I tried it one time, never again.
Dude, it's rough.
It is so dry, so dry, and blended chicken. It's not good.
No,
It's not good.
those guys are so desperate to get their calories and their protein in that, like,
Yeah.
I don't even know if they have the jaw strength to chew at that point, and like for your stomach to break it down,
Yep.
do all of that. Like, I got big into doing the shakes because I was like, I don't know how else to consume this amount of
Right.
food.
Yep.
Julie and I would bodybuild a lot, and I remember I got so burned out on beef, ground beef, because I would literally, I joked, I called it Rice Mountain. I would have like 3 cups of rice
Yep.
post workout, and then a pound of ground beef.
Mm-hmm.
So 1 square pack of that. And that was almost every night.
Yep.
And all I would do is put mustard on it because I loved it.
Yep.
Mustard on those 2. And like, it took me a good like 2 years to actually want like a burger again.
Yeah. Yeah. I do mustard now for carnivore.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. No carbs, no sugar. It just adds a little tangy flavor.
There's a bunch of different types of mustard too. So if you're feeling froggy,
Dude, I literally did not think of that.
yeah. Now, honestly, you can't do like honey mustard.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, is it really going to hurt you? It's 2 grams of your body's not going to be like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
You know, and so I tell people there is that balance. Have that Dorito,
Yep.
have that honey mustard.
Yeah.
The fact is, though, you're making good life decisions and you're doing moderation with the things. It's like a 80-20 they talk about. Like, eat good 80% of the time, have fun the 20.
Yeah.
And you'll still see results.
Yep. 100%.
You know, my thing is like, if you took the candy and the baked goods, anything like out of our house, I don't crave it. If it's out of sight, it's out of mind.
Yeah, I don't really crave.
Julie loves to bake. Loves to bake. That is like that's her outlet.
Okay.
It's even more her outlet now when there's downtime with Nora sleeping.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, you got to quit making cookies. Like, quit making bread. Like, she's like, just don't eat it.
Oh,
like,
bread
just
would
don't
be,
eat it.
Yeah,
like,
fresh bread, dude.
Oh, she makes coffee bread. That's phenomenal. Like, or apple cinnamon bread, or like pumpkin bread. And I'm like, man, like, you're killing me, Smalls.
Yeah.
You know, but my training's changed too. Like, there's no more ego lifting.
Right.
And we have a home
gym. When I go to the gym sometimes I
don't.
I remind myself I can't do ego lifting anymore because I'll hurt myself.
Well,
you know,
I got nothing to prove at this point, but
yeah.
like, I don't go to a public gym anymore. I have my home gym.
That's right. Yeah, it's in your
kettlebells in our garage and in our basement during the winter.
Yeah.
And it helps because I'm naturally competitive. So when I used to go to the gym, I would see these little punk kids with their little broccoli cuts, and their white beaters, and their pajama pants.
Yep.
I'm not gonna knock the Crocs because I have Crocs, so I can't make fun of them for that. And I know
Crocs right here, baby.
They're expensive, by the way. We were just at the store.
$50 now.
I went to go get Mossy Oak ones. They were $60, and I was like, I'll get a solid color. $50, and then we wanted to get the little insert thingies for our like nieces and nephews. They start at $4.
That's crazy.
I was like, I'll get the off-brand at this point.
That's
like,
crazy.
Yeah, Crocs. If you're listening to this, get it together. But yeah, I was like lifting with these kids, and I like it because like I have my own battle in my head to like keep up with them. And I remember the one day I was getting ready to bench press like the 105 dumbbells.
Yeah.
And I'm a short, stocky guy, so it's not a long range,
right?
And I remember asking the kid that I admired there that stayed quiet and just worked hard. I was like, "Hey, will you spot me?" And moved it for 3 without a problem. He looked at me, and I was like, I promise you that will never happen again, probably. But I remember like the next day feeling like, I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, what was the benefit of that?
Right.
Like I went back and looked, like you just did 3 reps. Like you could have dropped the weight, did higher rep count, really put yourself.
Yeah.
And it was just like,
it's that competitive nature. Well, I think all men have that competitive nature. Sure. And if they don't, then they should probably start taking TRT to build that, you know? But yeah, I think all guys should have that competitiveness. I heard a quote, what was this quote? I forget who it was by, but it was like every man needs to live with a sense of danger in him. Like, in a way, be a comforter, be a provider, be strong, be healthy. But if you push, I am going to do something about it. Yeah. Like there's that danger mentality or that danger sense in a man that should qualify him or for him to know if I need to get something done, you better move because I will do it.
Yeah.
You know?
You don't
like
see a lot
in
of
in the sense of that competitiveness.
yeah.
You know.
Well, and like it's funny that you mention it because uh I was never one like even though I literally did cage fighting. Like
Hmm.
I don't like that outside of those confines.
Right.
Like I'm not a big I mean, doesn't mean I won't defend myself or
Right.
protect people. I
Yeah.
have, but like I really don't see the benefit in it. I don't feel good if I punch you in the
To
face
create
to
to
create the
create the
chaos.
scene, but
No,
if
yeah.
a scene were to approach, it's like, all right,
Well,
I'll buck up. What do you got?
yeah,
You
well,
know?
and that's what it would always come to. And like, I try to be more mindful now. I mean, I carry, but so do other people.
Right.
And a lot of other people might not be as wise about when and when not to use it,
Right.
and I'm a husband and a father. So,
New father.
new father too.
Yeah.
So like you're people are dependent on you,
Right.
when you're single and that. And even then, like I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I had loudmouth buddies and I'm like, hey, you start something. I ain't finishing it.
Right.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna let you get beat up a
Yeah.
little bit before I pull them up
Yeah.
because you can't do that, man.
Yeah.
And
And you never know what's going to happen in today's
you
world
don't.
either. I mean,
Yeah, and I mean, I could count on one hand the amount of fights I've had, like actually outside of
yeah.
it. And honestly, it's just me picking someone up, setting them down in a manner which I know that will scare them enough,
Right.
but not hurt them.
Yeah.
And then usually just putting them in like a chokehold,
Yeah.
just to diffuse, not even trying to hurt them.
Right.
And you see that a lot, like
Mhm.
and I love jits. I've done it for a long
Okay.
time. Unfortunately, I've taken way too many concussions over my span of athletics and competitive
Yeah.
sports. That I don't know how much longer I'll be able to continue it,
Yeah.
but I do it because I just love jiu-jitsu, the physical and mental chess match.
Mhm.
I love it how it's a little man sport.
Yeah. Oh,
Even though
100%.
I
When
height-wise, I'm a little.
when we did like warm-ups, grappling was one of my favorite things to do as a warm-up because we would do like 50% grapple.
Yeah.
Not extreme, but like just enough to get the body loose,
Yeah.
twist, bend, get joints warmed up. I used to love grappling. Just
Yeah.
'cause it pushes the body. Like it's
It's
the best cardio workout in the world.
Well, a
Like
lot of people and as a wrestler, that's one thing I had to learn was I was always tensing before my movement, so they knew what was coming.
mhm.
And so it taught me to really not rely on strength.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could outpower a lot of people from having a powerlifting, Olympic lifting, and
Right.
bodybuilding background. But like, what good is that? Like, you're
Yeah.
not really understanding the art form. But what I loved is when I started as a white belt, I was like, well, I'm a black belt in wrestling. I'm a white belt in jits.
Okay.
So I would grapple with these upper belts, and man, they'd get so mad.
Yeah.
Because I'd take them down and I'd get psyched. I didn't know what to do, so I'm
Right.
like laying on,
Yeah.
like, just covering their mouth. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and that's so when I did wrestling for a year in middle school, I
Yeah.
think. But I had to retrain myself because jujitsu and wrestling, in
Yeah.
jujitsu, your shoulders can touch the ground. Like
Yes.
you can lay flat on your
Yeah.
back. So when I was doing wrestling tryouts, I was no problem. Get on my back, do
Yeah.
arm bar, chokehold,
Yeah.
whatever. And the coach is like, no. Like you can't, your shoulders can't be
You're
flat.
pinning yourself.
Yeah, I was like, oh man. So even getting that mindset, I had to retrain
Yeah.
to be like, oh, this is how you pin someone in wrestling.
Yeah.
Because jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu specifically, that's related to the groundwork,
Yeah.
and it's just it was just so much fun. Like
Yeah.
it's just a good time.
I had a gym when we were in Pennsylvania. Shout out to Scranton. We lived up in that area.
Scranton,
Terrible.
PA.
Terrible.
Hashtag the office.
They didn't even shoot half of that there.
Yeah, I know.
I know, right? People get so bummed when
It was just like the opening scene.
Yeah,
It
actually,
shot-
John Krasinski shot that opening scene.
That's
when he
right.
was coming in. But I will tell you that they are the most, and I'm a huge Office fan. I've watched all the seasons
Oh, yeah.
multiple times. They are very accurate with the stores,
Okay.
the grocery stores, the mall.
Just kind of like an
little-
older
all-
vibe. And,
Yeah, everything they say are actual real areas and real
that's cool.
stores there. And so after living out there for 2.5 years and then watching The Office again, it was like, oh, all right, yeah. Actually, the company I work for out there, some of our protein bars are in the vending machines.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So I noticed it when I was out there. I was like, yeah,
Oh, that's cool. That's
yeah.
cool. That'd be like, oh yeah, that's cool. You know.
And so I mean, I don't even know if I can call them protein bars. They're like candy bars with like 4 grams of
Okay.
protein. They're so good. I couldn't
Yeah.
keep them in my house. But when I was out there, I joined a jiu-jitsu gym, and I came from one in Columbus and one up in South Bend, Indiana. But my Columbus one, I had a world champ instructor, Vito
Okay.
Rivera, and I go out to PA, and I'm a little rusty. It's been a minute.
Mhm.
Got mollywopped by like a 130-pound white belt kid. And I like, you're just rusty.
Yeah.
Your fast twitch muscle reflexes. But what I loved is like they were so aggressive and constantly on the attack there.
Mhm.
And what I learned out there too was he's like, I don't just teach you jits for competition. It's for survival in real life.
Mhm.
And so once a year for a whole month, we would do slap jiu-jitsu,
Okay.
because what a lot of people would do is like these upper belts, yeah, they would tap me, but they'd put themselves in compromising positions where
Right.
if it was a fight, I could just rain down fist on their face.
Right.
So us lower belts are loving this.
Yeah.
When these months come, especially the purple belts, and a lot of purple belts at the time were dads that were just hobbyists.
Yeah.
They don't want to be fist. And so we'd come in and it's always hit as hard as you want to get hit. I like getting hit. It don't bother me. And there's a few of us, these lower belts, I was like, hey, I kept the receipts.
Yeah.
And I remember I was rolling with this one guy, purple belt, this jerk, like always strong arm stuff,
Yeah.
stuff too hard, do all.
There's
And
always
man,
one of those people.
he passed through and he was just sitting there. And I just, as far as I could reach back and just whack and hit him. And the look of shock. And I just whack, whack, whack to the point where he's got mad, stormed off.
That's so funny.
Didn't show up for the whole month. And a lot of them thought, oh, well, I'll just wait out the month. Oh, man, my instructor would keep receipts. And anyone that came back in the following month to start, he'd go, all right, we're going to do gauntlet today. Boom, 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 boom. All coming in. He's like, you're going to take your lickings because that's what we do.
Oh, that's
and then
awesome.
we'll move on. And I loved it. I missed
That's
that gym.
awesome.
I got to coach wrestling at that gym.
Oh, fun.
For a lot of really talented state caliber, college caliber wrestlers.
Okay.
And I love wrestling. Like if people always ask me, they go, if you could do one job for the rest of your life that paid the bills there, coach wrestling. I would do it in a heartbeat.
Cool.
I love it because wrestling has made me the man that I am. It's taught me the discipline.
It takes discipline to wrestle. One thing I hated was just the running. You run so much.
Oh, so much, man. I was in such good shape though. I loved it.
I hated it. I was like, let's just grapple. Like I want to grapple. Like I can't stand running. Like I'd rather just roll on a mat for 10 minutes.
I'm the same way. But isn't it crazy? You could roll for a half hour in jits, but I couldn't run for 10 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Like it does not translate at all.
Yep.
Oh man.
Completely different. That's why grappling is the best form of cardio in the world, because with running you're strengthening your legs and your core and cardio, but like grappling is every inch of your body.
Yeah.
Your arms, your legs, your calves, your neck, your shoulders.
Yeah.
And to throw on top of that, cardio.
Well, yeah, you got someone's body weight on top of you too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I used to cut anywhere from about roughly 10 to 13 pounds twice a week when I was in high school. I was a starter from freshman year on out. I had to learn how to cut weight.
Yeah.
And I remember being like a pound over and being like, oh, I guess I don't make weight this week. And the seniors, who are all my brother's grade, my brother ended up quitting like the year before. So I thought I was going to be able to wrestle with him. Didn't happen. But I knew all these kids since I was young, like cornered me. And they're like, you will lose that weight. And I remember they took me back to like the boiler room and there was a ladder in there. And they made me put on plastic and just climb the ladder nonstop. I'm like in tears. I'm tired, like all this. And like once you get through the first few weight cuts, it's good.
Yeah.
There's no way of cheating the system. I would always do it at the beginning of the year to you have to do like a hydration test.
Okay.
And that will tell you also how low your weight you can go for the year.
Oh.
I would purposely get heavy a few days before that.
Yeah.
Do all of it. And my coach was like, no, we're gonna rehydrate you tomorrow. I need you to be able to go 2 weight classes. And I'm like, yeah, come on. But yeah, you just, I tell my wife, I tell people about the insanity of like, I'd eat like an apple and like a stack or two a day.
Yeah.
Just get through it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my poor body.
Yeah.
Like,
you definitely go through the ringer, especially when you're trying to cut weight and hit those certain weight classes. It's intense.
I was miserable.
I don't miss the trash bag days.
No,
because I used to be like, I would go to high school with a trash bag on just to lose a couple pounds. Like I would just wear it all day.
You knew who was on your team because they're wearing a trash bag, they're spitting in a cup. All the. I used to dip in high school for the sheer fact of being able to spit and lose weight.
Yeah,
and taking tobacco nicotine straight to the dome when you're dehydrated and depleted, not good.
Yep.
And we used to carry the Arizona iced tea bottles because they were dark. So I was like, oh, I'm just
so
spitting in
it.
Oh yeah, dude. Like, oh man, it was
good old high school.
I'd sleep in the locker room during lunch because I didn't want to be around people. I'd have food and I'd throw it on the scale, not bear food, but in a bag,
Yeah.
like a PB&J sandwich. I can tell you to this day still weighs 0.5. So I knew I was going to put on 0.5 if I ate it,
That's
but it was
so
just
wild.
enough, or I'd eat a lot of Jello because it's just water based.
Yeah.
Sugar-free Jello.
Yep.
It made me feel good. I could do like a pound of it
That's
worth of
wild.
it. I felt good enough off of it, and then I just go cut it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. And then my senior year, I was having to go 2 weight classes to help the team,
Mm-hmm.
even though I was at a state caliber at the weight above that, and I was taking diuretics. Like my buddy's mom was a nurse, and
Oh, wow.
so we had these pills that would just make you pee all the time.
Wow.
So being in class always. Thankfully, we had a really good wrestling program, and the teachers understood.
Mm-hmm.
And I told them like, hey, listen, like to cut weight, I'm peeing a lot. Like, can I just sit by the door and like I won't disturb anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, just go and do it.
Yeah.
And, like, honestly, at that point, being a punk kid, I probably would have just peed in a Powerade bottle in
Right.
class. But yeah, it was crazy. I won't let. And when I coached wrestling at a middle school, high school, and then my club program, my high school kids, I'm like, dude, if you can't cut that weight wearing a sweatshirt and sweatpants in practice, like you're not going that weight class. Then.
Right.
Like I can't. I'm not going to have you be distracted cutting weight when I need you to focus on wrestling.
Yeah.
And we just implemented that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think it's important. I think you need to learn nutrition.
Yeah.
You need to eat better. You need better habits.
I think just overall better just knowing what to eat and what not to eat. I mean, you look at these companies that they haven't cared for decades, and they just I mean, you go to, speaking of like mustards, like you go to Kroger or Meyer, you have 60 different mustards to choose from, and it's like, where's the generic? Like that's what I'm looking for. And they dedicate these aisles that are 50 feet long, 8 feet high, and it's nothing but chips and Cheetos and processed garbage.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's not to say, oh, those are, don't eat a thing. I mean, some people don't touch them, but I think moderation, the whole healthy lifestyle in general, I think is beginning to shift. And I think also a lot of that also has to do with some of our leaders who are switching like to beef tallow.
Yeah.
Like that's a huge thing.
Bro, I use it as moisturizer.
Use it as a moisturizer. I think it was Steak and Shake.
Yep.
Just converted all to beef tallow, which is great.
I mean, and again, it's not even have to do with anything political for me. It's how is it that like we're one of the only countries that allows all these cancerous dyes?
Yep.
I'm like, that's so we draw the line on all these other
has
things.
Red band, and Germany has this band, and it's like, oh, but it's put it in America's food.
Brazil has better standards than us. Brazil,
yeah.
Not to knock you, Brazil. Sorry, but like
gorgeous country, just gorgeous.
But yeah, like it. Julie and I went to Guatemala for a missions trip, and all you see at the stands there is Coca-Cola, Doritos, Fritos, ice cream, all that. Like, and that's all these poor kids really can afford and get. Like, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, while you're there, like, I'd buy them ice cream or something. But like, I'm looking at these things, and I'm like, I just need normal food.
Yeah.
Like, I can't take all this junk food. And like, we were at like a mission-based like resort thing, not fancy by any means, but and so they would cook us meals here, but that's the only meals you were getting. So you had to get snacks in between because we were helping building a school, and we were doing all this. And I was like, dude, I'm so like, I don't drink pop. Like we do Zevia if we do have and love it.
Yeah. Propel water is my flavor thing.
Yeah.
I could chug Propel.
Have you ever had Zevia?
I think I have.
So yeah, it's stevia based.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like we like the cream sodas, the creamy root beers, the root beer like that. I mean, and that's our treat. We split one now and then, like, and we'll keep a little 6-pack at home. And, yeah, man. And the little things here and there. And then like, we like our little chocolates from time to time. We're not big chip people. Once in a blue moon, I like some.
I love a crunch.
I am a garden salsa sun chips. Like sun chips are my go-to.
Okay.
Or we like, Dots pretzels.
Okay.
And I like them because of the spices on them.
Yeah.
That's like that's what gets me. But not like big junk food people.
Yeah.
We just never have been.
Yeah.
We go to a farm to go get all our meats and our eggs and like
Yeah.
all of that.
Well, I've seen, so I mean, a part of like some Facebook groups and whatnot, and I mean, I've seen comments before, people just talking about just food in general, but I've seen and have realized, even with like families in America, in theory, that's all they can afford. So like they'll shop at these
Yeah.
stores and they'll just buy nothing but junk food. But in reality, if you, and I'm self-learned in this
Yeah.
too, you know, so in reality, if you buy healthier food, it just means you have to consume it in moderation.
Yeah.
So you could have a healthy lifestyle. You're just choosing not to because this is the easier route. And
It's all they know.
that's kind of my thing.
Yeah.
That's my experience with like, okay, if I go to a store, don't even buy chips, let's go get some chicken breast or hamburger meat, you know,
Yeah.
and just, you know, just cook it that way. Like, and it's, for me, it was just it's a lot of a mental thing. Like,
Well, it is.
do I need this, or do I want to enjoy this flavory Dorito crunch, or
Yeah.
just stick to my hamburger? Like,
It's a self-control thing. It's also knowledge. A
Yeah.
lot of the people, I mean, you can walk into a Walmart and you'll see most of those carts are packed with just junk food.
Yeah.
But you look at what Walmart highlights.
Right.
They highlight all the junk food.
Yeah.
They get the main space, they get the main aisles.
Yep.
They have aisles dedicated solely to pop and soda, to snack. So I always crack up because like they have one aisle fully for chips, and then the next aisle will be like Cheez-Its and pretzels and all that. I'm like, it's all the same.
Yeah. And the next aisle is a whole thing of candy.
Yeah, and then
Like,
you'll get one small section that will be like organic
Yeah.
snacks.
Yep.
You know,
And it's 6 products.
it is, and it's
And they're $34 each.
yes, and so yes, I think it's hard when you know because a lot of them are 3 or 4 kids in a household.
Yeah.
That's it for them. That's not an option,
Right.
You know, and I get that things may cost a little bit more to make them cleaner.
Yeah.
That to me is mind blowing. Like I'm like, so you cheapen a product by adding more to it,
Right.
You know, and yeah, we just need an overhaul on a lot in the U.S.
Yeah.
with that kind of stuff because it's sad, the obesity. Like if you go to a 7-Eleven, nowhere in my mind should you ever be allowed to buy a 64-ounce cup of stuff. Like
it's wild.
the big gulps. And I
Yep.
see people that go, oh, I don't eat this, I don't eat that, but I have my Diet Coke every day.
My big gulp.
And
Diet
it's like,
Coke.
well, how much Diet Coke? Are you talking like a can? Because that's aspartame. That's a lot already.
Yeah.
Oh, I just do my cup. I'm like, what's your cup? And it's like, I'm like, that is a like half gallon
Yeah.
of pure
Yeah.
chemicals. Like you can use that to chip rust off a bumper.
Yep.
And you're just ingesting that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's a will to want to.
Yeah.
And
That's
you see it.
that's good. That's a good statement.
Yeah, you see, because Julie sees it a lot. Like what she does for work is people go, oh, I'm just gonna get medication, or oh, they said this, the doctor said that. Well, yeah, and so Julie will be like, all right, hey, if you work with me, like she doesn't mark up testing, doesn't do any of that, but she'll show you like, hey, it could be $1,000 or $2,000 over the span of the time we work together for your supplements, for the testing,
Right.
From
To know your
service,
full history, to know
do
your
all
full
that,
understanding,
and to have her be there for
and,
you.
Yeah.
And people go, nah, I'm just going to go back to the same doctor that's misdiagnosed me 4 times now.
Yeah.
And so I told Julie, I said, they're not at that point where they're willing to really make the commitment.
Right.
Because if you put that kind of money in, now you're committed.
Now you're committed.
Yeah, you have to.
Yep.
And
otherwise you're just wasting your time, you're wasting her time.
So I told her it has nothing to do with like her or what she offers. I said it's the lack of commitment.
Yeah.
And I said, trust me, they spend their money on dumber things.
Yeah.
Like they go off and do.
I know I do.
I do. Oh yeah. I have enough bottles of whiskey and sports cars and
Bourbon.
guns to justify that one. But I mean, I've worked with her. It's phenomenal. I love working with her on it. I mean, I'm biased because I'm also her biggest fan, but
Right.
what she does. And
Yeah, and
you wouldn't think, like you talked about building a tolerance.
Yeah.
It's not even that. Your adrenals get so clogged and dirtied
Yeah.
from all that caffeine ingestion that if you would have even detoxed for 30 days, and they make adrenal supplements to help kind of clean them up, you would have went back and took one scoop of Jacked and been like, oh man, I'm
Oh yeah.
That's all it is,
Yeah.
but we are taught that, oh, I just have a tolerance to it.
Right.
And it's like, well, no, your body's, yes, adjusting to that, but no one has a tolerance to a gram of caffeine.
Yeah.
Your adrenals need a chance to settle. Your adrenals are out of whack,
Mhm.
And I found that out from my stomach thing. I had to do a stool test with her
Okay.
and a blood panel, and she was like, "Your adrenals are like," and I was like, "Yeah, I figured that. I abused caffeine for
Mhm.
years,
Yeah.
being an
Yeah,
outside rep."
I have my one friend, I was just talking with her about cleansing. So like I've never done any like significant cleansing, don't know much about it, but we were just talking and I was asking her questions because again, just knowledge,
Yeah,
learning, and she was like, I'm not gonna say who it is, but she was like, oh yeah, and she's like, I take these capsules and these, and she's like, I'm doing it like a 14-day cleanse right now, and she's like, you can take them orally or you can take them up the other way, and I was like orally or the other way,
suppository, baby.
and she was like, she was like, this might be too much information, but for the benefit of this conversation, I'm gonna tell you why it's better. So she'll put a pill up her butt 2 times a day
Yeah.
for the next 14 days because it immediately goes into your stomach and it's able to digest faster, more effectively, and efficiently. And I gotta be honest, I don't know if I'm ready to put pills up my butt.
Dude, I know people that do coffee enemas.
And we talked about that, and I said, I am not putting a tube up my butt and funneling coffee through my
Coffee
butt.
only goes through one hole.
Yep, my mouth.
Yep.
Yep,
And
yep.
that's so the cleanses, all that, like they're
I'm
not.
I'm all for cleansing the body,
Yeah,
and
I'm very curious about like the metal detoxes, like the metals in your system,
yes,
and then
yeah.
the parasitic.
That's what the
Those are like,
parasitics.
and I mean, you have to go and actually take these pills, and like
That's what she
she's
was
like,
cleansing. She's like, there's parasites in your body,
well, you'll have worms come
and
out of you.
and that's why she
I don't think
goes
people
through the
are.
rectum.
I don't think people are prepared that like, no, you can have parasitic worms come out of you.
Oh yeah,
Like, I don't know if I'm ready for that.
I know I'm not,
Yeah.
but if I do, I'm putting pills up my butt.
Yeah. Like, yeah, if that happens.
This is the first and last time this is ever gonna happen.
Well, and that's like it's crazy, but it's true. The absorption rate is
Yeah,
significantly faster
right.
through a suppository.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm waiting to see when that trend really kicks off because I feel like that's the last little bit of area that hasn't
The
been
whole
highlighted.
cleansing.
Oh no, the cleansing, but just the back half
Yeah.
insertion aspect of it. Uh yeah, but I've had people that do like coffee enemas and they do them pretty regularly, and I'm like, they're not meant for every day. Like,
Right.
that is meant to just kind of a pep, even once a week type of thing. So,
Right.
again, it goes back to moderation,
Yeah.
and everyone does these diet fads or they do that. And it's not necessarily that like it's a fad. It's like what works for you in your life. If you're a big meat consumer
Hmm.
and you're like, hey, I want to do that, go do it,
Yeah.
but don't let Betty Sue tell you or, Joe Schmo be like, oh, well, it works for me. It's like, well, yeah, we live different lifestyles.
Right.
We're different people. We have
Right.
probably different blood types,
Yep.
different metabolisms. Like the one thing I could encourage anyone to do, get a stool and a blood panel done.
Yeah.
That will tell you a lot about yourself. And then it will show you where you can actually address the issues. Maybe it's like, hey, I'm having gut inflammation. Well, you come to find out that you have a higher rate of bad bacteria to good bacteria. Maybe a couple capsules for 6 months, just
Yeah.
incorporate it in. And maybe like I detox from no caffeine for 6 months, cold turkey.
Yeah. I don't know. I need my coffee. I'm an addict.
You'd be
to coffee,
surprised though
man. That'd be a hard one.
with how cognitively like much better you feel cognitively.
Oh, I
on the carnivore, that like if you cut the coffee out, first week's a little rough because your
Yeah.
body's. Dude, I honestly, I just started doing. I found out that like, don't get me wrong, I love good coffee. I
Mhm.
love good coffee. Got my grinder. I got my electric pour over. We
Yep.
have all the fun gadgets. I just more than anything, I like something warm in the morning.
Yeah.
So I just switched to tea.
Mm.
Didn't bother me,
Yeah.
But I'm also one that when I'm committed to something, like I'm all in. I'm never
Right.
a half and half.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was a big one for me.
Yeah. I kind of now I know when I do consume caffeine, I know if I drink a cup after 6 p.m., I'm gonna have trouble sleeping. So that's the way my body is changing right now, and I'm not too happy about it because I would drink coffee all day. But I know being on carnivore, within the first week, I was immediately sleeping better. I felt more alert, more aware, and it was kind of like mind blowing because I'd wake up and I'd be like, wow, I'm actually like,
You're not groggy.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't have to take time to wake up. I'm awake.
Yeah.
And that's been a huge benefit of just feeling. And then even throughout the day, it's like, so with carnivore, you eat in moderation. Like
Yeah.
when you're hungry, eat. When you're not hungry anymore, don't eat. And so when my friend was in town, we went out to, we did like a Sunday brunch
Yeah.
at Old Bag of Nails in
Oh, yeah.
downtown Delaware.
Yeah.
And we both just decided we're just going to get the fish and chips. And by this time, I'd been on carnivore for a month and a half.
Yeah.
And they bring out our order and two massive cods
Yeah.
and some fries. I was like, all right, well, today's obviously going to be a cheat day. I ate half the fish
Yeah.
of just one, half,
Yeah.
and maybe 5 or 6 fries. It's like, I'm full.
Yeah.
Like, this is it. Like,
Yeah.
so that even made me realize the amount of quantity that is served in America. Because I've traveled. I've traveled Africa and Australia and then Cabo even, but like the moderation in food from other countries to
Big
America, we're getting like 100%. They're serving like 15%, and
we're getting a 4-person portion compared to what should I mean, and people don't. And it was one thing that I used to because of wrestling. You would have thought I did time in prison and food was scarce because I used to eat. I would cut around
too.
it, and I remember like
it was like this every
when
time.
Julie and I started really being serious and dating. She would just go in like, "Hey, I'm not gonna steal that." Like one manners.
I know, dude.
Two,
Yeah.
And I realized it, and she's like, "Dude, chew your food, like enjoy it."
Yeah.
And that was one thing that I really worked on with her during like this protocol I was doing was she was like, slow down,
Yeah.
chew your food more because your body has to digest that. So if you're only partially chewing and you have a piece of steak this big go down, your body only has so much stomach acid
Right.
that it can break things down.
Yeah.
The smaller the pieces, the easier it is to break down.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, and those were just small changes to make. But yeah, I also realized too that my mind would catch up with my body then, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm really not that hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was I mean, I brought the food back and ended up just throwing it away.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I paid $60 for half a fish, and it's just like it's wild, and and that's something. Again, moderation, just being cautiously aware of just how much food. Because I think for me, it was learning. Oh, I have this plate of food in front of me. So I'm gonna eat it all, even if I'm super full and stuff. I'm still gonna eat it.
That was the
it's
mindset.
Like, it's like, dang, like it was just wild to even now. Like when I go out to restaurants, it's like, okay, what is the smallest portion I can get and still be fine? I met with a friend at Opa's.
Oh yeah,
and luckily, because carnivore meat, right? So I was like, oh, I'll just get like a small thing of lamb. Perfect portion.
Yeah.
It was like $6-7, little bowl, couple pieces of lamb in it. I was like, this is honestly perfect. Like, I don't need a whole meal. And the salad they brought him was just not he like half of it.
Yeah.
And just throw the rest of it out. Well, it's like, geez.
Even like whenever you get post carnivore, like I was always told, like, if you're counting macros doing that, like you don't have to count greens. You don't count eat as much as you want.
Yeah.
Because that type of it's a dietary fiber more than anything.
Yeah.
So fill up on some salad, especially if you're hungry.
Right.
Have some of that. I don't really drink water around the time because it also messes up the digestion of food. People used to go, oh, drink a cup of water before you have lunch or dinner, and it'll control your moderation because you're already he's like, well, yeah, now I have water in my stomach too, so it doesn't feel good. Everything's sloshing around, but it throws off the digestion as well.
How to do that?
Julie probably do more on it, but
which I do want to bring her on. I haven't texted her yet.
Yeah,
but she would be a fun one to talk all that out with.
I'm pretty sure it messes with the acid in your stomach.
Okay,
break everything down, all of it, and so I keep like just a small amount because you want to rinse your mouth out or something a little hot,
right?
But yeah, I'm very mindful of the amount of water because I realized I was like, dude, I'm drinking like 20 ounces of water while I'm eating.
Yeah.
Then you feel horrible after.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's interesting.
Just small things. I started becoming a little bit more mindful of, and thankfully she's there to remind me.
Yeah.
Because most of the days I'm done with work, I'm like, right, just trying to eat. I forget to eat honestly at this point now, which is crazy.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, the only time I eat, like I haven't eaten anything today, but like at some point my body will go, hey.
Yeah.
Get some eggs in you. Like,
Yeah.
go cook some chicken or steak. Like, you need to eat something.
Yeah. I
But
used to do when I was fasting and doing like sub keto kind of stuff was I wouldn't eat past 8 p.m. and then I wouldn't eat till like 1 p.m. the next day. And I was fine in the morning.
yeah.
Like quickly my body got into that rhythm. And I remember like the first thing I would have was they call it a bullet coffee. It's MCT oils, a little bit of cream, and then your coffee.
Okay.
And then like 30 minutes later, I would then have my first meal.
Yeah.
And I would eat like 6 eggs. And I'd pre-cook them, actually, bake them.
Yeah.
So they were like 2 per little
Yep.
muffin tin
Yeah.
kind of thing, and just mow that, eat some veggies. And
Yeah.
like I was good. And it was like 2 or 3 pounds a week I was doing. But like I felt so cognitively sharp. Like I was just like, wow, like a haze had been lifted. And that was the only caffeine I was doing was that coffee.
Okay.
And it was like, wow, like you don't really realize like all this stuff that kind of gets you sluggish and all of
Right.
it. So yeah, you know, the big things now is just like trying to remember, make sure I take my probiotic, multivitamin, maybe a fish oil,
Yeah.
and then just hydrating. I'm a big about hydrating. I'll
Yeah.
drink about 100 ounces a day,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
on a light
Hydration's
day.
important. I know being on carnivore, I down water.
Yeah.
Like 5, 6, 7 of these a
I
day
think like a
that I'm refilling.
36-ounce.
See, I want to get something, but then it's like I don't want to lug this freaking thing around, everywhere I go.
It does get annoying.
Even this doesn't fit in my cup holders, and I'm like,
So Ice Shaker, shout out to them. They sent me a test bottle, and it has like After Dark engraved in it.
oh, nice.
On it. And I was like, oh guys, I'm probably not gonna buy these, like, because they're super expensive.
Yeah.
We don't have people asking us for them, but they're
Right.
like, well, here's a couple complimentary ones. And I got like a thin 32-ounce and a bigger 36-ounce, but they narrow at the ends.
Oh, at the ends they fit, and then
I used to have a big Yeti one bigger than that.
Yeah.
And I had to buy an Amazon cup expander thingy. And it's just big, bulky thing. And
Yeah.
it's drive Julie nuts.
Yep.
So finally, I told her that day, I was like, hey, we could take it out. She's like, finally. Like, but she has like 19 cups that she brings with her everywhere. So
yeah, that's fun. That's fun. I love that. So how does it feel like being a father?
tiring.
Yeah.
No, it's
How old is Nora?
she just turned, it was 7 months
7 months.
on Tuesday or Wednesday, the 12th.
Okay.
So
Are you guys like big birthday people, or was it just kind of like you're 7, you're still a baby?
oh, so she'll do Julie does like a photo for the day, just kind of for the baby book.
Oh, okay.
I think for the first year. Then it turns into just every year you kind of do the
Okay.
photo thing.
Yeah.
Crazy one that's even this much time has gone by.
Yeah.
It's really rewarding. Like I'm fortunate enough that I work from home.
Yeah.
I'm my own boss. So if I need to go down and be dad to give Julie some reprieve, I can.
Yeah.
And a lot of people tell me, especially, but it's mostly dads. And, even like for my brother, he was like, oh, I didn't feel bonded until, they're like one
Really?
and a half. Because you don't know how to interact with them. They don't really interact with you. You mostly
that's
want,
true. I never thought
they
of that.
mostly want mom,
Yeah.
and Julie nurses. So Nora's not bottle fed. So there's also that intimacy and that
bonding
connection and
yeah.
all that. But like Nora reaches for me and smiles when I come in the room. And like, it's like, there's already a bond there. And that
Okay.
was like one thing that really caught me off guard, because I thought it'd be a lot longer. Not like out of the gate, I was just like, oh, here's a baby that sleeps, 23 hours a day. Like, you don't really have like,
It's a
oh,
baby
this is
out of
my
the gate.
baby. But it's you're so like blown away though still
Mhm.
that like it doesn't really settle in. I would say by like between month 4 and 5, I was like, yeah, like that's my girl. Like that's
Okay.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I love her. She's so funny, man. A lot of fun.
She's so cute.
I know. She's makes eyes and squawks at everyone now
Uh-huh.
too, especially in church.
So she's developing that awareness.
Oh,
and like that
which has been
personality
hard.
now.
She's now realized that her and Julie are not the same person, which is a normal thing apparently. And so
Okay.
we had the fortunate blessing of having a lot of nieces and nephews. Julie has 3 sisters.
Okay.
And let's see, Kim has 2, Katie has 4, and Michelle has 1.
Okay.
So we got to see the whole spectrum.
Yeah.
And we're beyond close with them too. They lived locally there
Right.
for a while. So I tell people like we're first time parents with like second child mentality, because
Mhm.
we got to see all that process. We were
Right.
engaged in that.
Yeah.
We stayed over and did some nights and like all of that. And it's been good. I'll tell you the biggest thing that I wasn't expecting is Julie and I will be celebrating 10 years married in June. So
nice.
we've been together for 11.
Mm.
11 next month. And it's it's definitely a shift because we did everything together. Like
Yeah.
that's my best friend.
Right.
Like, we do all this, and now you have this little tiny human that takes up all of your energy and your time and your focus.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, let's go do this. Well, I can't because I need to be around it. And so like it was a bigger shift for me, I think, than her
Yeah.
of like, oh, okay.
Where's my
Like,
best friend?
yeah. Like, and I told her
Where's my best
and
friend?
it was funny because like when we went into it, her biggest fear was like, hey, because I've wanted a child since I was like, thankfully it didn't happen when I was in my early 20s,
Yeah.
but I've been hounding her for years,
Okay.
but I wanted her to be able to do all the things she wanted.
Right.
And that when she was ready to be a mom, it was like, hey, this was mutually agreed upon by to do it. I didn't want there to be any regrets or any looking back. And I'm really glad we didn't rush that because we had 10 very awesome years to really do as much as possible together. And to really understand and like to grow with each other, to understand each other, to do all that.
Right.
And so I remember her telling me like, oh man, I hope now that you get your little girl, you're not gonna forget about me. And I was like, no, you'll be good. And it's like the other way around. I was like, you got your little girl, like I like, yeah, like I feel like that discarded toy. And it's funny because like we were just talking about it now of like how do we get on the same page? Like what can we do? And communication's key. And I'll tell people like, oh, when you're overstimulated and tired, you'll communicate. Not usually the best way you want to,
but you'll get it across.
Yeah, you'll get it across. So we've really worked on and still working on it. And we've leaned on people.
I feel like that's a forever thing.
Yeah, and we're leaning on people at church have gone through these seasons.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what do we do here?
Yeah.
Like we can't get on the same page. Like, what do you recommend?
Yeah.
What can I do more? What's this? Like, what's that? And a big thing for us too is we learned each other's love languages because like acts of service is not going to make her feel loved.
Yeah.
She is undivided attention. Mine is like validation and like physical contact, a hug, a kiss, those kinds of things. And so when we started understanding that too, it really helped. We did a lot of early marriage things to help understand each other. So we weren't always combative or button heads or, she realized quickly that for men, we have to walk away and process stuff.
Right.
And go through every possible situation before we respond, and women typically, not all, but tend to be like, hey, no, let's do this now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to let this slide or I want to talk about it now. And that would lead to frustrations early on. Cause I'm like, I feel like you're putting me in a corner.
Yeah.
And then when we learned that, it was like, I was like, yeah, if I remove myself, it's not because like, I don't want to, talk. I don't want to resolve this or that. I don't know what to say, and I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Right.
And I feel like emotions are high right now. So let me go calm, cool, like figure it out, like gladly come back. And it took time, but and then it was just like I laughed, like we never really had a major argument.
Yeah.
Like something that's really been like a knockout, drag out kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I honestly think too, having Christ at the center point of our marriage has made such a huge difference. Cause I see a lot of friends that I went to high school with that I still keep in contact with that don't. And you see that dynamic and well, what's different about you? I said, it's Jesus, like by his grace and his grace alone. Yeah. Because I know who I am as in my flesh. Yeah. And I try not to shy away about talking about that because I think it's important. Like I encourage people too. I said, if you seek him out in your marriage, you'll naturally just come together. It's not to mean it's going to be perfect and there's going to be work.
Po buddy's nerfect.
Yeah. Right. And so that was a big thing, man. But being a dad is just awesome.
Yeah. And you're a girl dad.
Yeah.
You can officially claim that time. I'm a girl dad,
Yeah. And so we have our own little things together already. Like, you always make the joke of like, oh, no guy's gonna come around and all that. Like we both know that's not gonna not happen.
Yeah.
And my biggest thing is like I just want to be such a present enough figure and give her the opportunity to have that relationship with the Lord that she won't have to seek validation from somebody else. Yeah. That she has enough between her parents and through her relationship with Christ that, she's not going to go find some tatted lunkhead,
right? Well, I feel like a lot of that too exemplifies what she will witness through the action of
Yeah.
you and Julie,
Yeah.
paying attention to the verbal communication and how you guys treat each other. And I feel like that's such a huge step. Now, I don't have kids, but
Yeah.
and I'm just from my own
Yeah.
experience, it's like that plays a real effect
It does.
in childhood development, childhood growth. And that's something I'll have my sister on here one at some
Yeah.
point, but that's one topic that we're gonna hash out and talk about because she did such a great job
Oh yeah.
at giving peace,
Yeah.
learning their languages and
Yeah.
through different seasons for boys. And
She's a
so
she's a rock star.
yeah, and but she learned all this stuff
Yeah.
as they were growing. So like, and now they're amazing kids,
Oh,
great
all of them.
hearts, love
Yeah.
people, they're passionate, they're healthy. And so yeah, it's just really interesting to see the different side effects of how different kids are raised in the homes of their parents and how their parents treat their kids and
It
how their
is.
parents treat themselves. And I have someone coming on in a few weeks who has a degree. They specialize in that.
Oh, okay.
So I'm really looking forward to that
See,
conversation.
that like I've always been into like psychology and like what
Mhm.
make I used to be in about like what makes killers tick, and I was like, that's probably not a healthy one to go
Yeah.
to. But I've always wondered like
It's
what like
interesting.
you like to see the history of like where did it all
Yeah.
then you realize a lot of it has spiritual,
Yeah.
and that just kind of took the luster out of it for me.
Mhm.
I was like, oh no, that's just demonic entities.
Yeah, and
Get out of here.
atmosphere. I just
It is.
atmosphere is such,
It is,
plays
man.
such a huge role for how even now, like my age. I mean, I'm 34, and even being in certain atmospheres, I'm like, this is changing my mood. I don't like this.
Yeah.
Like I'm
Yeah.
being challenged by
That
this.
level
And
of discernment,
yeah,
and that sensitivity. I feel like that Holy Spirit aspect is like a dimmer switch. And
yeah,
I feel like a lot of people, even ones that have accepted the Lord, they just keep it on the low setting, and
yeah,
it's just kind of like as long as it doesn't impact their life.
yeah,
I had mine turned up to 1,000,
yeah.
and I mean there was times, and it's come back down and settled. It's like a pendulum where like, you
Mm,
got to find the healthy spot. But
yeah.
I remember when it was like super high, and even seen like an image of it was Venom, the movie.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Someone sent me like a motorcycle helmet that was designed. I felt nauseous
Really.
because I was like, well, yeah, you think about it. It's someone that possesses somebody and controls them and does these
Yeah.
things. And like when you think about it, I'm like,
Yeah. I totally understand that. I've never been a fan of the Venom movies. I've seen them all, but I was just like, eh.
yeah, well, yeah, one, they're not good in
Yeah.
general. Like,
But I understand what you're
I'm a
saying.
huge movie guy, and that was one thing when that like dimmer switch got lifted is like the secular music,
Yeah.
the movies, the shows. Like, what do we allow in our house?
Right.
Like, we're a Discovery Plus kind of family.
Yeah.
Where we're watching kitchen and home renovation.
Right.
We don't have, Game of Thrones on. We don't watch any of
Yeah.
that kind of stuff because what are you coming in agreement with and what are you letting in your home? And it's no
Yeah.
different. Hey, to people that do it, that's not a knock on them, but like for us, it was just kind of like, hey, we don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't want Nora to think that saying that word's okay.
Yeah.
And then it just turns into like, well, then you don't want to make a big deal out of it. And like,
Right.
would it ever have happened if like, yeah.
Yeah. I've always been curious the way I mean, a lot of things, I'd say pretty much everything. And I know you're the same way too. Like
Yeah.
we live unaffended. Like it's not gonna
Yeah.
bother us. It's just, I don't have time for that.
It is.
But at the same time, I always ask myself, do I want to remember this?
yeah.
Like it affects your memory and how many, I mean, we have, I don't know what the number is, but like millions of thoughts a day.
Yeah.
It's like, if I watch this or if I engage in this, is this something that I'm personally going to want to remember for a very long time?
Yeah.
And that challenges me too. Cause like, even in like watching certain shows or engaging in certain conversation, like I understand, live free, do whatever
Yeah.
you want to do. I don't care at the end of the day. It's your life.
Yeah.
But at the same time, for me, it's just that simple question of, do I want to remember this and how long do I want to remember it for?
Yeah.
Because that plays an effect, like, and because when I'm engaging in conversation or when I'm talking to someone, if I saw something inappropriate, I don't want that popping in my head randomly when I'm trying to be intentional about conversing with someone. So, and that's my internal, whatever
Dialogue.
Yeah.
The internal, that struggle. And
yeah, I think that's a very real thing in how that affects people in they're developing their personality. in a sense.
I
Like
struggle with a good joke.
their consciousness, you
I
know.
I'm the one thing that I've really have struggled with, and I always like to focus on is, the power of the tongue to either breathe
Mm,
life or bring fire.
yeah,
And I like a good joke. I've always loved stand-up
I
comedy.
do love
I've
a good
gotten
joke.
away from watching the foul ones, and it's hard because there's not many clean ones out there.
So I will
It's a
say,
guilty pleasure.
I'll say one comedian only because
Yeah.
he is brilliant.
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle.
Yes.
Oh my
Well,
God.
even like Shane Gillis was one for me that
Shane
like
Gillis,
I
he can be
enjoy,
pretty
and
funny.
I don't feel like well, no, it is all bad in a sense of the topics, all that. But yeah, like I found that I struggle because when I get in these situations with friends that maybe aren't believers, or I get around an old group, the jokes start flying or the language gets a little loose.
Yeah.
And I've caught myself now more and more of like come home feeling like, man, I don't think I did a good job of representing the Lord on that one.
Yeah.
Like that is the internal dialogue I have now, which is good for me. It shows
Yeah.
progress and growth. And it's not going to be perfect. It's long suffering,
Right.
but that's a hard one that I come back from. Like, and Julie will even ask me, like, is it a joke you can tell your mom? Well, I was like, well, I can tell my mom. I'm not going to tell your mom, or and like someone said at one time, is that joke worth your salvation? And I was like, I never really thought about it like that. Cause like, if you're willing to do that one, what else are you going to do? And like, it's the same thing of like Instagram. If you're algorithms and all of that, like I have to deal with,
Mine are so out of whack right now. I can't stand it.
most of the time, like mine's just the company page, but we get fitness influencers on our stuff and we get this and that. So like if you go to the about section or whatever it is, there's some photos in there that I'm like, no, like get out of there.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what are you letting in when you do those things?
Right.
Are you staring too long?
Well, that goes
yeah.
back to like the developing a personality. Like,
Yeah.
is this something I'm gonna want to remember
Yeah.
for a very long time, and how is this gonna affect me?
Yeah.
And I think I enjoy living that way, but also I love engaging with people who are the complete opposite of me.
Oh, all day.
Because everybody's interesting. Everybody has something to share.
Broaden your horizon.
Yeah.
They're
Even
all
jokes. Like I listen, I know some jokes that are like
oh, I've had a few, and
like painfully good to hear.
I have so Julie's older sister, they live out in Boulder, Colorado, like West Lafayette area, and so her and her husband, like the husband's in his 40s.
Okay.
There's at least a 10+ age gap between us, and I only see him like once a year.
Yeah.
And he's a little more stoic, he's good at that. And so it's always like a mission to get him to laugh. And so that's where it's gotten me in trouble, because you got to do something grand.
Yeah.
And the few that I've done, I got him to laugh, but
That's
at what
funny.
cost?
Yeah.
And then I'm getting scolded by the sisters and that's the thing is like, I've grown a lot in it. It's still a challenge. I tell people like, it's hard. It's hard when you get around old people, old habits. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
And what I'm happy for me is like, old habits isn't like, oh, partying and getting drunk.
Yeah.
Doing this to that. It's like, oops, that word slipped, and oops, that joke, and was that appropriate?
Yeah.
And like, yeah. So I've just kind of learned like, hey, just don't go in that environment then.
Yeah.
Because like you don't do well in that.
Right. Yeah. And
so,
that's a personal
Yeah.
choice. That's personal conviction, or, just what you choose to have in your life. Just it's no different than like what type of music you listen to or movies to watch. Like there's some artists great, super talented, but it's like I just can't stand it. Like
I can't even in the Christian community because
there's a lot of artists. Yeah.
Well, that's even gotten to a point for me now, and it might be like a unpopular opinion. There's a lot of mainstream Christian artists that their music
sucks.
It does, and it's not praise and worship. When your whole song's about you, that's not praise and worship.
Yeah.
Because who are you praising?
Right.
You're not praising Jesus if you're giving him a shout out every 30 seconds, but unless it's like my struggles, what I've done, and probably going to catch some flack for it. But like this whole Brandon Lake, like he's massive right now.
Right.
Fought Hallelujah. Oh, he's got Jelly Roll.
Yeah, Jelly Roll.
And Jelly Roll's like, this song got me praising and worshiping again. And I was like, that song's about us as individuals. It's not about the Lord. If you think,
I haven't heard it yet, but
I've had
it
I mean,
sounded
it's a catchy
interesting.
song, but it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I've had my hard trials, I've had this, but I'm still gonna say hallelujah to you, Lord, about
Hmm.
me. And like, we like Jesus Image, Michael Cucchiano's
Oh
or
yeah,
down
yeah,
in Orlando, phenomenal. And he's a
yeah,
guy that he is very specific about who he'll let into his church to lead praise and worship. Because if
yeah.
it's not about him,
Mm,
not happening. And
yeah,
it's not to say that those aren't good artists; they can't do that. But he even said a fly can get in the ointment or in the
yeah,
oil, and that oil becomes tainted. But
yeah.
that anointing might still be there. Like you got to be very
Mm,
mindful of these things. And he goes, you got to be careful what type of music you let into your prayer closet.
mm.
And for me, I like old school hymns. You know, those are the ones that really
The book, the
right.
Oh
Yeah.
thou shalt the
Yeah.
Lord.
I mean,
Yeah.
but if you think about it, it's such just a raw love of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Like,
I heard a retired, I don't know if he was retired. I was,
yeah,
scrolling TikTok, but it came across my feed and it made sense and I just thought it was interesting. But he basically said, he's like, I'm gonna tell you why church songs all sound the same. He goes, because they want to get their song into other churches.
yeah,
And churches operate a specific sound and they will not go above it. They will not go below it. They stay in that happy
yep,
medium. And that's why they're all the same. Now, I get, and again, tons of crazy good artists like Brandon Lake and
yeah.
all, like,
It has
I
nothing
love
to
it.
do with their talent.
It
Yeah.
I love it. They're doing something.
They're still spreading the Lord's
If
word, but
they're, motivating people, but no, I totally understand that, to a point where, like, why aren't there different sounds? Like, I think it was
yeah,
I think Bethel Church years ago actually started a rock band
yeah,
for like Christian artists, and now there's musicians coming up about for like screamo music, and
yeah.
I love that
I think it's
because,
great. My
hey,
buddy's a drummer for one and
yeah,
loves the Lord.
I think it's phenomenal
Yeah.
that they're
I don't even know what he's
pushing
saying,
in.
but
Yeah, and it's,
yeah,
but hey, you know what? If you're saying I love the Lord, but it sounds like I love the Lord,
yeah. If that's your
you're
way of
doing
worshiping,
something,
yeah, that's your way of
God
worshiping.
created music,
Yeah.
so
Well, and that's the thing. It's pleasing to his heart, but I think people have to be very discerning and mindful
yeah.
of what they're considering.
And it's not
No
everybody's
offense,
flavor.
it's like Beyonce going over to country and calling her country music artist of the year.
Weird.
You know, no, Snoop Dogg did a Christian song. Do you think I'm gonna go? No,
Yeah.
because you're the same guy that goes and smokes weed, uses terrible language, and does
Yeah.
not carry yourself in a manner. So why would I expose myself
I
to
guess
that?
that makes sense.
You
That's
got you got to
interesting.
look at the
Yeah.
person too, and it's not from a judgmental standpoint because sin is sin.
Right.
We're all sinners. That's a brother in Christ. It's from a place of love,
Mm-hmm.
of like, hey, if you're not carrying yourself in a manner in which glorifies Him, I don't know if I can listen to your music because what am I coming into agreement with?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because like he just said, Pastor Chris just talked about, who are you letting squat on your property?
Yeah.
You know, and if people don't think that the enemy can't function within Christianity. I mean, he penetrates churches. It's not like he burns up in flames when he wolf in sheep's clothing,
Mm-hmm.
and they talk about it that he uh what do you call it? Lucifer, you
Yeah.
know, had the best singing voice of all angels.
Mm.
You don't think that he's gonna dabble in all of the
Yeah.
musical industry and like it's just stuff that spiritual warfare that you know, and I catch myself on it because every now and then, dude, and it's such a corny thing to say. I love all music, I really do, and it's not even for the lyrics. I
Mm-hmm.
like a good beat,
Yeah.
and I'm this white kid from a country town that I used to love rap. I loved it.
Oh man, I grew up with
Oh,
Eminem.
I did too.
Freaking loved
Oh, I
Eminem.
know. And
No Eminem.
now and then, man, when I'm traveling, I'll put something on. Ah, it just sounds like nails on a chalkboard. I'm like, this is garbage, and
Yeah.
like, it's such a rewarding feeling, but at the same time, it's like, why did you go and turn that on though?
Yeah.
But like you start to see these things, and I just really hope. I feel like the Christian music industry needs to be flipped on its head.
Yeah.
I feel like it's
I
lost
would
its
like
way.
to see
I
that.
have cousins that work within it, heavily within it,
Okay.
that have said the same thing. Like there's just
It
these
just
art.
to me it just sounds all the same.
It does,
And it makes it hard
anything
to
for a buck to go mainstream to have your own
Yeah.
tour at like what cost?
Yeah.
And I get it. That's your passion, and that for them they might think they're doing it for the
They're
Lord.
they're
Like,
doing something great to motivate
yeah,
people. But at the same time, it's like I've been around this for my whole life and it all sounds the same.
it does. And like You really could. I mean, I couldn't tell you half of the song titles, but I know the lyrics,
Mm,
but they all sound the same.
yeah.
So yeah, it's not a knock on artists because I can't carry a tune if I had a bucket. And I
I
can't
was taught to
I can't even
harmonize.
I can't even do
I can
that.
harmonize. I
I
wouldn't want to be
I
the
could
lead,
literally
but
put 300 pounds over my head. I could fold you like a pretzel. I can dot you with my handgun. I
but
can't
carrying a
carry a
tune.
tune. I can't read music, and it is painfully obvious.
Oh,
Oh
that's
man, I feel
funny.
bad singing for Nora, man. It's rough.
That's funny.
I'm like, I'll take the baritone.
When so I heard studies, or I've read article or heard people say, like, when Julie was pregnant with Nora,
Yeah,
did you guys like read her books or sing or talk? Because
talked a lot.
I've heard that
Yeah,
babies will develop that sound for recognizing who mom and dad is when they're born unconsciously, but they're aware
yeah.
of the
Well, same.
noise.
So yeah, we talked a lot. We were very mindful too of the music we played, so it was a lot of praise and worship,
Mm,
like our very specific ones.
yeah.
We liked a lot of soft jazz or instrumental.
Okay.
We would do a lot of that, something that removes the lyrics out of it.
Okay.
Uh, and then yeah, even TV shows. It was like
Yeah.
she can hear at this point. She's developed,
Right.
but it's really funny because she loves the Norrises. We were in their life group,
Oh
so
yeah,
she
yeah.
would hear them at least a couple times a week.
Oh, that's so
And
funny.
so I'm like, there's no way that you're gonna convince me otherwise that like she doesn't recognize those
She's aware
voices,
who they
like
are.
loves them.
That's so cool.
And same with Shelly, and Shelly was in our life group,
Okay.
and plus they're just easy people to love.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one. And then we used to make a joke because like Nora would be sleeping if Julie snuck up to do something,
Mm,
Nora would wake up, and I was like, she smells the milk. I'm telling you,
that's
smells the milk.
crazy.
And I found out that their noses are fully developed when they're born, sense of smell, and
Really?
that mother has a hormonal distinctive hormone smell that the baby recognizes because it also helps them find the nipple. Their eyes aren't open
Oh.
too, so like there's a scent that gives off. And so we used to joke about it. And I was like, no, she's a bloodhound. He just sniffs you out. Like I could come up and like there's not even a tick. You walk up and it's like, whoa, where you at? What are you doing?
That's wild.
Dude, it's nuts.
That's cool. The human body's amazing.
It really is.
The
We always say
anatomy.
that too. Like you hear about it, but hey, we evolved from tadpoles, so what do we know, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's finish with the elevated business solution.
Yeah.
That's a new one.
Yeah.
New company startup. And are you good on time?
Yeah, I probably got about 15 more minutes. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, elevated business solutions.
Yeah. So that has been kind of a thought for like 2 or 3 years. I grew up in the sports nutrition industry, good, bad, and indifferent, made a lot of mistakes. I was a brash kid coming into it. And even after, I've always been a very just, unjust, hard on my sleeve kind of thing. But I've always been a creative thinker, my life in sales started from a passion of wanting to help people. I love people. I want to see them succeed.
Yeah.
And at the time it meant like, okay, well, I'll help you in the physical realm with your fitness and your health and wellness and get you on good. Maybe this pre-workout and this multivitamin gives you the boost that you need to make better decisions, and like I loved it. I loved it on such a micro level of working one-on-one with people. I loved it more than landing. I've done $1 million deals and it felt nowhere near as it did when I had someone come back to GNC and go, dude, I've lost 10 pounds.
Yeah.
That protein shake that helped me now. And I've done this. I made this change. There was a lot of frustrations though, coming up. I moved up really quickly within the professional realm. I was a mid-senior executive by the time I was like 27.
Yeah.
Had some tough leadership lessons I learned in that, where you can't always just speak your mind.
Right.
And not everyone can always like you.
Yeah.
And so had some trial and error and trial by fires there, but this elevated business was born out of frustration more than anything because I just came from an employer. They brought me in at a senior level to lead strategy. So I bring in all the strategy and then they don't implement anything. And they're going to go and do the same thing that they've always done, or you got ignored, or here's your seat at the table and you present something and they go, oh, that's cute, and pat you on the head and put it up on the refrigerator like macaroni art. And you're like, dude, I'm trying to give you the evolution of where your company needs to go.
Yeah.
And finally, like I just came to a head with my previous employer where it's just so much frustration. And they were like, hey, should we just part ways? I was like, yes, yes,
Yeah.
please. Give me a severance. I'll go and good riddance. I'll sign whatever.
Yeah.
And I was telling Julie, I was like, I don't know if I can go back. I'm gonna take the last 2 months of the year off because that happened. And I finished out October with that employer, so I had severance through the
Mhm.
rest of the year. And I was like, nah, dude, I'm not going back. And
Yeah.
she's like, you should start your own thing. And I mean, you were a godsend because I didn't know how to build a website. I didn't know how
Yeah.
to, and like the Lord started putting all these people in place. And Elevated Business Solutions for me is an outlet to give someone a fighting chance,
Yeah.
to give them the space and the grace and the help, like at those pivotal times that I was offered and not offered too.
Mhm.
I I love coming in, and I essentially tell people consulting is you have a specific need, you don't know what to do, so you're bringing me in to handle that specific thing. So I'm going to fish for you.
Yeah.
But business coaching is I'm going to teach you how to fish.
Yeah.
So you're going to bring in a thing to me, and we're going to have weekly sessions, and I'm going to teach you how to go through this, work through this process,
Mhm.
find that solution for it, and how to
Of all areas in a
of all
business,
areas.
of
Yeah.
all areas, not
So
just.
I mean,
I mean, if they have a specific problem or
yeah,
issue, like they can still reach out, but initially, it's
yeah,
whatever they need to
yeah.
overcome. They need help climbing over
And
that
it's
mountain.
professionally based, but you'd seem to get some like life coaching involved in it too.
Yeah.
And I don't market myself as a life coach because I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to keep my life going.
Yeah.
Like I don't. That has never been my thing. Like Kelly Norse, phenomenal life
Yeah.
coach,
Yeah.
phenomenal.
She's coming on.
Yeah, she's
She'll be a
awesome.
good one.
Just such a good person. Uh, Mine is in the professional realm, but a lot of times there are personal things that are affecting your professional career,
Mm.
and uh, Mike Bean will tell you that too
Yep.
because he's seen all of that.
Yep.
And so you do end up helping them with some things, and it could just be habits they have, or
Yeah.
ways of thinking, and all of it.
Right.
But getting to help these smaller brands that are experiencing success, and you want to help them at that critical point so they don't fail
And tumble.
and tumble, and then they're nothing.
Yeah.
And it's giving an opportunity and an outlet for those smaller brands to be able to continue to grow. And
Yeah.
because there's a lot of great brands, a lot of great businesses, a lot of great people that I don't think the world ever got to experience because they didn't have someone in their corner.
Yeah. Or they gave up too early, right
Yeah.
before they were about to
Yeah,
hit like a huge
for a fear of not
milestone.
knowing.
And yeah.
And I tell a lot of people it's not for a lack of knowledge that scares people. It's for a
Mhm.
lack of trying.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do a lot of home improvement things. What do? I go and research.
Mhm.
You can teach yourself how to do a lot of that. You don't know how to cut.
Right.
You don't know how to use a chainsaw. There's a lot of videos out there that can teach you how.
They'll show you how not to use
Yeah,
a
that
chainsaw.
too. There's so many resources out there now that saying like, "Oh, I don't know how to do something." That's not an excuse.
Mm.
There's either someone that can teach you, or you can teach yourself, depending on the kind of money you have.
Yeah.
And so I help bridge that gap for a lot of people. I consult for some, and then I usually encourage them to do at least like another 2-3 months of business coaching
Yeah.
afterwards, because it's like, hey, we're going to actually dissect what I solved for you. I'm gonna teach you how, if this presents itself again, how to handle it, go through all of it. And then I was like, and let's build you up. Let's other things you're having, and I love it. I love watching people grow and succeed.
Yeah.
Like there is no better feeling. You couldn't put a price value on it.
Right.
And there's a lot of coaches out there.
Mhm.
I've dabbled with a few that I've seen, and it's just kind of like yeah.
Yeah.
They look at it from such a surface level.
Yeah.
And me, I always have treated clients and customers. I'm like, you're not just another name and number on a screen to me. Like you're a person. You have overhead. You have bills to pay. You have a family. You have a dog or cat. Like whatever. Like you have the same struggles that I do.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like we're gonna find common ground, and I'm gonna help you because if I was in your shoes, I'd want someone to extend that hand. So that's where Elevated Business Solutions has come from. I mean, it's so new still, but it's exciting because I get to pick who I work with.
Yeah.
And so that allows for me to enjoy what I'm doing. It also helps me tamper the workload. So I'm not feeling like I'm being stretched out too much, and gives me the freedom to go still be husband and father.
Yeah.
So yeah,
cool.
Really excited for it, man. I feel like the Lord's going to use me in a way for a lot of stuff to kind of rewrite the blueprint on some stuff.
Yeah.
So looking forward to it, and just the people I can meet and connect, and you know, the website you did for me, I love it.
Yeah,
And
it worked out.
it worked out
really
really well, and it came together so quickly.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, if I didn't have you, I would have had to shell out 10 grand to
Oh,
somebody, and
easily.
I would probably hated it.
Yeah.
You know, but I enjoyed the process.
Yeah, it was
The
a fun
photo,
project.
though, even doing the photo shoot, I don't like my photo being taken.
Not a
And
lot of
like
people
you made
do.
it, you made it such a fun process. And you know, I couldn't tell people enough. I boast about you all the time where I'm like, he took me. I'm like, I don't like being in photos. I was like, I actually had fun doing it.
Yeah.
It was a good time. You create such a laxed environment, and then even with the website, you're so collaborative with it.
Yeah.
You're mindful of what I wanted.
Yep.
You're open to feedback. All of that worked out really well too. And just yeah, man,
It was a great collab.
It was.
It was fun.
Yeah, you were a true blessing for the rollout of all that, because I still feel like I'd be going through that process.
Yeah.
If I didn't have your help. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure. Well, thanks for coming on the show, dude. This was a good time.
I enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Simple.
Yeah, it is. But there's such a level of like genuineness to it.
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
it feels good where it just talks. I'm really looking forward to seeing some of the other guests you have on.
Yeah.
Now, where can you view and listen to this? Are you
it'll be so I'm working on Spotify and Apple
Okay.
Podcasts. That's still being in the works. That might be a later launch.
Okay.
But for now, it'll be the full videos will be on YouTube.
Oh, perfect. Because Julie was asking, and I was like, I have no clue.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Subscribe on YouTube. Bears don't fly.
okay, I'll make sure I do that.
All right.
I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah. See ya.
Yeah.